All right, y'all. Today the Cortez show, and we're here with Miguel.
Woo!
Miguel,
Yeah.
you know you're really somebody when your name is just one name, and everybody knows who you are.
In my defense, I mean, you just kind of go by the name that you've been named. You know, it's like, okay, his name
Yeah,
is
but
Miguel.
you don't go by like Miguel so and so. You just Miguel,
Right.
and
right.
everybody knows who it is. That feels good, right?
I should have put it Miguel, Miguel, because that's what everybody says. Miguel. Is it Miguel? Yeah. Are you Miguel?
That's so weird. But when we found out we were doing this, we just found out last week, and I was like, Miguel. I said, for real, Miguel? And they're like, nah, just some other Miguel. Of course, Miguel.
I'm gonna have to copyright that.
Miguel. So obviously you've been doing this for a while, and we just did this incredible, interview in our lounge.
It was fun.
Where you got to be one-on-one with your fans. How do you feel about like getting that kind of love? Did you see them all just looking at you, just like, oh my God?
It was good. It's a good feeling, Well, they definitely took time off of their own schedules to come to the station, and I think that's just a great feeling because, you got to think everybody has their own. I said this in the interview too. I just know people taking out their time. That's the most valuable asset we have. So I really appreciate it. It's awesome. It's a great feeling.
Well, you were so forthcoming with everything too, and I asked you a little bit about your history there. But since we have so many people more listening, and of course they're watching and everything.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just gonna tell you straight up, like being a Mexican American in the entertainment industry, there's just not a lot of us.
Righteous.
Well, there's not a lot of us on the English side of entertainment. I guess that's the better way to put it.
Right.
Do you feel that people grasp onto you and look at you as someone that they can aspire to be like, or look, I can be like that, Miguel? Because people might not know, but your father is Mexican and your mother is African American.
Mm-hmm.
So you're biracial.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that people, when they find out that I'm Mexican, then they go, oh, okay, and they really grab onto that, which is amazing. So it's been fun to kind of really get people to make them aware that I'm Latino, that I have that in my blood. I think I've always wanted to embrace it more, but taking the trip that we talked about to Mexico to visit my family for the first time with my dad and my brother really changed it, because then I wanted a reason to go back to Songwriting, Michoacan, which is where my family's from. And I wanted my business to take me there. So it really completely changed the perspective. As much as I wanted to represent before.
Were you performing out there in Mexico? Or?
No, it was literally for that documentary that we were talking about. I had the honor doing this documentary for Vice, which is a cool channel.
I love Vice. I mean, that's one we come in here and we talk about it on Monday morning.
Right.
Watch Vice,
yeah. Right. Always some funny or informative. You gotta love. What is that? Bon Appetit too.
Yes. Good stuff right there. Yeah.
And anything with Action Bronson. I mean, big shout out to Action Bronson. He's like probably. When you see somebody and you're like, I want to be that dude's friend. Like, we should be friends. Like, I feel like we would actually.
Don't you feel like you already know him?
Definitely,
right?
definitely.
Him and Tyler, the creator, on there.
Yeah.
Too.
Yo, Tyler is so dope. He's dope.
You know who else needs a TV show? Snoop.
He's got a couple. He's got a couple.
He needs like something late night. I'm telling you, Snoop.
He does. He has a late night show.
But they need to take
channel?
GGN though.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about the YouTube one, but they need to put that. I think that needs to go on
put him on.
No, he does a late night show. It's like a cooking show. I wouldn't say late night.
With Martha Stewart.
With Martha Stewart.
Yeah, I've seen that. But he needs one on his own. Like he needs like that Colbert Fallon kind of feel. Can you even imagine?
I could definitely imagine that.
Would you be a guest on the Snoop show?
Definitely, anytime.
When I get my TV show, you'd be my first guest. Okay?
I would love that. I would love that.
We talked a little bit about your project, War and Leisure. That name is so, man, when I read that, I was like, War and Leisure, well, how do they even come about it? And I read a little bit that there might be some political, maybe not political views, but somewhat of you maybe expressing yourself through your music artistically about the situation right now.
I mean, I think there's a lot going on for us to really keep in our minds, to be mindful about. I think I've always wanted to be the kind of artist that took what was really happening in his life and really encapsulated in his projects and his albums. All my favorite artists were able to be mindful of the times they're living in, as well as be creative and to really bring people to their music, but still talk about things that matter to them. You listen to Prince with like Sign of the Times, or you listen to Michael Jackson, We Are the World, not even We Are the World, but Man in the Mirror, and all of the countless songs he did, about Africa and about Mother Earth, Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
You listen to David Bowie or even Queen, like these people, these artists, the Rolling Stones, every timeless artist that I've been able to really listen to and study and to appreciate has been mindful. And so what I will say is, although the title is War and Leisure, it's not all about politics. It's not a political album. I think there's a little bit of of my views on what's happening now, or I'm speaking out about some of the things I'm seeing.
So you're more so addressing the current time and the situation that we're all in.
Yeah, I think that's a part of what's happening in my life. I can't ignore that, But my day isn't all about politics, just like everyone's day isn't all about that, Right. So there's a lot of feel good music on the song. Of course, there's some sex music on the album.
I talked about Sure Thing. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, that song, when I hear it, I get like in the mood. Like I'm like, oh my God. And I work with my husband. He's not here. He's DJ, so he's traveling. He was so disappointed because he's a big fan of yours. And whenever that song comes on, he's like, let's go. I'm like,
my dreams are shattered just now. You have a husband? No.
You got a fiance.
I know. We're talking about
that. We're joking.
Yeah,
we're totally joking.
Jokes, guys.
But that song, to me, I mean, it invokes a feeling, and you said it's supposed to because that's why you wrote it.
Yeah. I think it's always, all the songs are, all my favorite music, all of our favorite music really connects on like an emotional level. That's why we can go back to it and revisit, because we've attached it, an emotion to like a memory too, and that's what makes music timeless, is like enough people grab onto a song and they make it a part of their memories. That energy is echoed amongst time, on and on and on, and it just keeps going. It's like when you throw a pebble into a lake, it's gonna leave ripples. And so, every time I get to go in the studio, I think about that sometimes. I'm like, man, I don't know how this is gonna touch somebody, or how it's gonna become of another person's memory, and how they're gonna make it theirs, and it's gonna become a part of their story, and that's, I love music for that. I think that's what I always wanted to do with music. That's what I set out to do. So War and Leisure is another attempt, is just to make music that connects on an emotional level, and that was the best way to describe the sound and the overall energy, was to title it War and Leisure.
I think it's such a powerful title. It says so much, and those two words are so powerful, and they invoke a feeling as well. Sure Thing, Adorn, these are some of the biggest songs. Personally, what's the favorite song? What's your favorite piece of music that you've made yourself? Your personal favorite.
Ooh, favorite pieces of music.
I know they're like children, but
there's
got to be one that you're like, man, this just
There's songwriting song. There's songs that I love because they've really touched the most people. Like Adorn is always going to be a favorite of mine because it's a song that really connects me to a lot of people. But then there's songs that, I are real creative to me, and I know what I put into the song and how much thought and really digging for analogies and things like that. There's a song called Leaves on the last album,
right?
Wild Heart, which is really poetic, and it's just about change and how change comes. Sometimes we don't even pay attention. I'm from Los Angeles, by the way, and in LA we don't have seasons the way that it's experienced in other places. Often you go to sleep and it's summer, and the next day it's wintertime, it's raining, and then again it could be Christmas Day and it could be the hottest day of the year, so our season change is really weird, and that's how life is. Sometimes you get so tunnel vision, and you're focused on what you're trying to do, and we all have a million distractions, and we got things we have to pay attention to. Sometimes you're moving so fast and going so hard for something, you kind of, when you stop to take a look around, you go, oh man,
you're missing this
my
moment.
My friends have changed, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. Or, my family is growing, the people in my life are changing, I'm changing, how I relate to things is changing, my perspective, my priorities are changing. I didn't even realize it, and that's what that song is about. So it's one of my favorite songs I've ever written.
Man, you need along with it maybe like a double disc thing. You need to put out like a self-help book with this thing, man.
Dude, for real, you got some Tony Robbins on us up there.
Yeah,
I like that. It was free. We didn't even got to pay that Tony Robbins money.
Right. Come to Miguel's seminar Tuesday and Thursday.
My advice is Tony Robbins charged too much. Just buy Miguel album. Why'd you wait so long to put a project out? You just mentioned it's been 3 years almost. What's the deal?
2 years.
What? Why?
Slug.
I know she's like, go out of here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, slow
down.
What
happened?
I've actually been on tour, and also like this is all I'm still a person, and
I'm only human, Dana.
Well, we fill a bucket with water, and you have a hole, and it's gonna you're supposed to you're giving all of your energy and your time and experience to what it is you love, right? And that's the whole. And it's got to go somewhere. The energy's got to go somewhere. That's what it's for. But eventually, if you just let it keep going, then the bucket or the cup is empty.
That's right.
You know? And so we have to continuously, you know, we want to keep the hole there, because if you keep it, then it overflows, and then there's no use for all of the water that's going in. And that's no purposeful. And I think there's no you're not using it for its purpose.
Right.
And so we want to be purposeful. So you want the hole to be there, big enough for what you have inside of you to continue to go out, to flow out, but you also have to continue to fill it. And that's kind of, you know, the best way to explain that. That's just, you know, we have to do that. And also just learning how the game is changing. You know, I had to take some time to realize how I can be the most effective, you know, creative person doing what I do, not only for me, but for my fans. How can I be the most effective? And now I think the hole has to be a lot bigger. So I had to make the hole bigger. That means I have to continuously fill it up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You
And
just
that way,
remixed and completed the whole
You know?
glass half full.
Well,
Right.
it's true though. But so that you can fulfill what you need to do, so that when you do release your music, it's exactly what you want. It's not a hurried project. It's just not to make $1. It's because you really put your heart and soul into it.
yeah.
I feel that in your music, though. I think most people do. We talked about the way you perform. I had the pleasure of seeing you. I've seen you perform before, but I saw you a few years ago, and I feel like I was just blown away. It was in Phoenix. It was in Arizona. You were performing with Drake you were
On the Drake tour.
on the Drake
Yeah.
tour, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was so incredible. The energy you put in. Is that how you perform every time? That energy, that rock star kind of feel, you know?
I mean, I love being on stage. I think there's it's a different kind of communication. You know, that's when you really. Miles Davis said this. He said my recorded albums are just an advertisement to come see me live. You know, and that's like how I that always stuck with me when I read that, and I always wanted to be the kind of artist that just really connected on a live stage. You know, I grew up watching Prince and Michael Jackson, and we all saw these incredible, like, superhuman, amazing abilities, you know, these talents, these just geniuses on every level. And I knew how it made me feel. And once I felt that kind of connection on stage, there's just nothing else. I can't explain being able to be on the same frequency as an entire, you know, 30,000 people, you know, or however many people might fit in a stadium. I can't explain what that feeling is, to have the control and to be able to kind of guide the energy.
Do you
and dictate
feed that? Do you feel that energy? Do you feed from it? Do you feel it back and forth when you're performing?
Man, I soak it up. I soak it up and I give it right back. So the more and more I give, and it comes back. It just keeps going. You know.
You've mentioned Prince like 20 times. People compare you a lot to Prince. Was he a big influence? I mean, because I love Prince. I mean, my mom used to listen to
skip Michael
Prince.
Jackson and
Michael Jackson and Prince.
and
But you
Bowie
mentioned
and the Rolling Stones.
No, you said Prince earlier. You said Prince 2 or 3 times, and
But
you mentioned
also
Prince a couple times.
in connection with a few other artists. But yeah, these are like, I mean, I think for everyone can just go ahead and
People compare
agree.
you a lot to Prince though because of the way you perform.
I think it's probably, there's no one it's such a crazy thing. One, I feel very I love that I remind people of something, a very small portion of the everything that he really embodied. You know, he really was
Right.
he really gave himself to the craft. You know what I'm saying? All the way around. You know, playing, writing, performing, just exuding that kind of energy, that he had something to offer, and that made you intrigued. That takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of self-control and a lot of self-understanding. You know what I'm saying? To be able to just give that and to exude that at every level. So I think it's a huge compliment. But I mean, one, I don't ever want to be anybody else but Miguel. That's all I ever want to be.
Miguel.
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 Yeah.
Just Miguel.
That's all I could.
Miguel?
That's all I could ever be. You know. So as much as I really am, I'm appreciative that I remind people of something and someone that I consider to be excellence, the standard of excellence. You know.
You're doing you.
I just can only be me. You know. And I think there's there may be some shades of him that are gonna be a part of me, but there's also shades of, like I said, Michael, or there's shades of Marvin, or there's shades of Stevie, and there's shades of and textures and tastes of the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, and so many more artists that I got to study that that often kind of get overlooked because there's a one, I'm dark skinned, I have a sexual energy. You know what I'm saying?
You? Miguel got a sexual energy.
So I understand where it comes from, but I think it's more like we always need a point of reference. We need a point of reference, and if that's a point of reference, I think it's an awesome point of reference.
Well, people always say Prince and Michael Jackson, little James Brown. So everything, like you said, everything needs a point of reference. I love the honesty. I love the performance. Your new single, Skywalker. Tell us a little bit. What's the inspiration from? What's the story behind the song?
Man, Skywalker is funny because like we just met today.
Yeah.
But I think you get a sense that I'm like pretty chill, down to earth.
Yeah, for real.
What I mean?
Like as soon as you came in, real down to
like
earth, real dude.
right. Better say yeah.
Yeah, Miguel's
Tell y'all
cool,
later.
man.
Right. I am
I'm
just
tell
down
y'all
to earth, right?
what he's
Coolest
really
dude
like
ever.
when the
Vibe
camera's
him.
going on.
Insane. Could not believe the vibes.
Right.
So unvibable. It was insane.
Anthony tried to take you all the way to the bathroom. I was
That's
like,
how vibe he
chill.
was. Do you need help? You good? Okay.
But yeah,
yeah.
like that was kind of the thing is I don't get to meet everybody and like have just a regular conversation, and this is the first time in a song that I've actually been able, I think, to give that kind of energy to my fans. Where it's like it's almost like now you have a sense of like, you know what I mean? I love music. I want to have a good time just like everybody else, and I'm here to feel good and stay on like a high frequency. So if you're really on that same vibe, like never mind all the hate. Like let's just stay on this high frequency. And I just wanted to write a song that just really captured that part about myself to connect on that level. I think that it was fun. It's a new, oddly, I feel it's something that would normally be like the first thing you would do. It's like a first hangout. You get a sense of people's like lightheartedness. You don't really get to the deeper parts, but for whatever reason, it's kind of coming later, which is it's awesome because my fans really appreciate it, and I think that's the coolest part about it.
I got to wrap things up because you guys got to go, but I got to ask you real quick. Hip hop, R&B, top of the charts, biggest music in the world for the first time ever.
Right.
For the first time in the history of music.
That's right.
Forbes, I'm so proud because we've been a part of the culture for years,
Yes.
growing up, listening to it, supporting when mama said it's not real, everybody's never going to last. And here we are. You work with J. Cole, you work with some of the, I think, biggest artists in the world. You're obviously one yourself. Who would you want to work with, and what are you listening to right now? Besides your own project, obviously.
Who would I want to work with? There's a lot. There's a lot of people that I still look up to that I would consider musical mentors. Like I've gotten to work with Nas, but I haven't got to work with Jay-Z yet. I haven't got to work with. We've been in studio, but we haven't really collaborated. So I haven't worked with Kanye, which is I look up to him as a musical mentor.
I love Kanye.
Me too. I think
Ye. he's so willing to just say what's on his mind, and that is so rare.
It's rare, especially now. Everybody wants to be PC and all of that. Yeah, boom. I love it. But yeah, there's a handful of artists like this that I grew up and still listen to and look up to. And then there's artists that I grew up with, so the J. Cole's and the Kendricks
right.
of the world, like I've had the honor and the pleasure to work with like-minded artists like that. Then there's up-and-coming artists that I'd love to work with as well. But it's just so many.
You just have to pick up the phone probably, right? He could just pick up the phone and probably call whoever he wanted to work with.
I'm looking forward to it now because I think it's so much more of that feeling now in music. It's really about collaborating, and really like just working with people and trying new things out. It's super.
Think about Cardi B is the first female hip hop artist to have a #1 without a collabo. That's crazy since Lauryn Hill. That's how often we collaborate now. That's a big feat. Even though she only had one hit, that's a big feat for someone.
I didn't know that. That's a crazy stat.
First female hip hop artist to have a #1 with no collaboration since Lauryn Hill.
Right, and she's
that
Latina
was in the
too.
90s.
You know what I'm saying? That's cool.
Yeah, I love Cardi B.
That's really cool.
That's my girl. She's Dominicana
Like you love
too.
Cardi B without the music, and then the song drops. You're like, all right.
She just jumped on a song with Migos too. You got to check it out.
Yeah. I feel like they probably done a bit because her and Offset. So yeah.
Her and Offset.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for coming in. I know you've spent your whole day here, so thank you for taking the time.
A pleasure.
I mean, what else in the world could we ask you? You've been Tony Robbins. You've been Miguel. Thanks for keeping it real and coming in here with us.
It's my pleasure. It's
Miguel,
easy to do
y'all.
with real people. I appreciate it.
Miguel.
Miguel.